Hello, 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 and welcome. This is Ageless Beauty with Erin, and I am Erin. So, today we are doing An Evil Lives Here. We will be doing Season 4, Episode 7, titled The Grim Reaper. This was originally aired September 3rd, 2018. Now, for those of you that are new, hi. So glad to have you here. Let me tell you a little bit about what we do. I will watch an episode of Evil Lives Here. It is a program on investigative discovery. But because they are like in season 17, I watch it on the Discovery Plus app because I'm only in season 4. So, you know, they don't show these new seasons. However, I sit and I watch the episode. I make notes. My notes are over here. You'll see me looking over here, and that is why. Normally, I will sit and do my makeup as we're talking. And it's something for me to keep my hands busy. However, this isn't the first time I'm recording this today. So the makeup's done, but the recording wasn't. It's been a day. I'm sorry. I will also say that I have somehow hurt my shoulder and neck, so I'm a little stiff if I'm not moving well. That's why. But makeup's done. Everything that's on this face will be listed down below. If you have any questions, let me know. Normally I do it while we're talking, so this time I'm just going to sit here and talk to you and hopefully not shake things up because I don't know what to do with my hands. Anyways, so that's what we're doing today. Those of you that are been with me many times, thank you for joining. Thank you for coming back. I love you all. So, like I said, everything that I have currently put on my face and won't be doing the video on will be listed below. If you have any questions, please also check out my affiliate codes. I have 3 products that I love and use on a regular basis, and I have a discount code that I can share with you. So, hit that up. Let me know what you think. We'll come right back. Here's an ad from me about one of those products. Hi guys. Okay, we are breaking in from your story real quick to talk One Up Nutrition. Now, I know you guys have probably heard me talk about this to the point you're like, we get it, shut up. But I can't. I love this stuff. It's literally an everyday thing for me. And I needed to buy more, and I thought, what better way than to do an unboxing. So I love when I come in and I see this one's big red One Up box on my front porch. Even my husband's like, oh honey, your One Up's here. You know it's what it is, and you know that you're getting some good quality stuff. So what is One Up? OneUpNutrition.com is it's nutrition. There's proteins, there's powders, there's, if you're working out, there's pre, pro, during workouts. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. There's a greens for gut health. There's a lot of gut health products. And it's just such a good, like I use so much. And we're going to talk about here what I have because a lot of what I use, I needed to reorder. And then yesterday when I was going through my stuff, I had to put another order in. And then last night as I was going to bed, I realized I'm almost out of my nighttime stuff. So it's a constant thing for me. And I did really bad this time because normally I have a list and order once a month. And a lot of times because you get deals if you buy multiple months at a time, I'll do 2 months at a time. I really was bad this time. So forgive me, it's been crazy. So anyways, here's the box. One Up Nutrition. As we go through, just a reminder, it is oneupnutrition.com. You can go and use my code ERIN20. It's ERIN20 for 20% off your order. So I just want to make sure I don't forget that as we go on. So now let's tear into this box. So it says this red box delivers health, confidence, and performance. Every time you work out, every time you eat healthy, every time you recover properly, every time you use One Up supplements, you are becoming better. So I do, this product has been really good for me. So obviously my packing list, they come some little things in here, a thank you card, and there's always a little handwritten note. This one says, let's make it count. We are rooting for you. So every month or every order I get, you will have a little written hand note from somebody else. I mean, it's not the same person twice. And so there's just this little, they want to follow your fitness journey. Say thank you for choosing One Up. Okay, so, and we'll just get this out of the way. Every time you order, you get free stuff. Now, sometimes they are limited on what they have available. Like yesterday when I put my order in, there was only greens and reds, which I love, and his pre-workouts. So I just got some greens and reds yesterday because I travel with these. So these will go with me like when we go to this ballpark. And it looks like it's probably what I got. Greens and reds, mixed berry, probably what I got. Fruit punch. So yeah, these are all greens, fruit punch, and mixed berry. But if you like a product, check out their samples. It's really good to be able to get free stuff. Like I said, these things travel with me. I have so many, and honestly, I do have so many of the proteins, of the greens and reds. I have, I think, some pre-workouts and some collagen. If you're interested, shoot me a private message. Let's talk. I can get you some samples. All right. Now, this is what I ordered. First is my gut health. Supports digestion, aids nutrition absorption, decreases gas and bloating, and supports healthy immune. I take this every day. This is, yeah, every day. And then Make Her Lean promotes weight loss, promotes energy, mood, and focus, promotes appetite control. This isn't every day. I separate this twice a day, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. I feel like it helps me keep that energy. So it starts me, and then a couple hours later, around lunchtime, it keeps me going. Daily Cleanse. And I want to talk about this. This promotes anti-bloating, supports digestive health, supports overall weight loss, may help detoxify your body. So you take this daily. This is 4 caplets a day. And I really worried about taking this one because usually if you have a cleanse, it means it makes you run to the bathroom. I did not have that. I have not ever had that with this product. And last but not least, because this stuff is so good, this is my BCA EAA. Promotes growth, protein synthesis, performance, strength, healthy hair, skin, nails, promotes rehydration. This has glutamine and collagen, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it's an electrolyte product. Now, just tell you a little bit about this. I drink this while I'm working out, and this strawberry kiwi is amazing. I actually ordered another bottle of this because I'm out of what I currently have. I don't know how that happened. So I needed more, and I got to thinking, I need another bottle. So I ordered another one. This flavor was out, so I'm trying something new. But let me just tell you a little story. My daughter was coaching the other day and did not hydrate well enough during the game. She come home, she sat down, and then when she tried to get up, she fell. She started cramping so bad. I didn't have any Gatorades. I didn't have anything with electrolytes. So I went up and made 10 ounces of this, plus another 10 ounces of my Rebuild. Now, these are the 2 products I use during exercise, Rebuilds after exercise, and it helped her tremendously. Loosened up those muscles, and then we just poured water down her because water is always good, hydrate. But I wanted to get her some nutrients, some electrolytes, something to with those muscles, because the Rebuild after workout, I can go as hard as possible when I work out, and I drink that and I don't cramp. I don't seize up. It's amazing. So that's it. This is what I bought. Go check it out. You will not be sorry. One Up Nutrition. You will not be sorry if you've put this type of thing as a priority. I'll say that. But yeah, I'm not even going to talk about the protein powders, you guys. I've said I've got 12, 13 of them. I don't have to buy protein for a while. But the rest of this stuff, my daily stuff, I have to do. So thank you. Remember again, oneupnutrition.com, Erin20, 20% off. And now back to your video. Okay, so now the episode starts a little different than it has been for most Evil Lives Here, and they've been doing that a lot recently. Normally, the show starts with someone sitting at a table, being mic'd up, ready to talk. A couple episodes back, there was a woman, she was actually at the beach, and it started that way. And this time, it's starting with this lady walking down the street, and she's showing us this road, and you see these cross signs, which at this moment, I did not get what streets they were. It does come back. I have that information. But she's talking to us, and she's showing us the block that she lived on. So what we're seeing is where she lived. And she tells us that it's hard to explain to us the things that happened, and totally understand how she felt in that moment. Because she said, I can tell you I was terrified, and that does not justify how scared or how awful the situation was. So then Evil Lives Here, and when I say that, the show will come up and they'll have this block, and it'll have some information on that they think that we need to know that may be important to the story. So Evil Lives Here tells us that Linda Scarpa has never forgotten November 18th, 1991. And now, and another thing that I absolutely love about Evil Lives Here, and you've probably heard me say if you've been with us, they do a wonderful job of actually showing us news footage, reporters footage, newspaper articles, pictures. We see a lot that take us to the actual time. So we're not just seeing a reenactment, which we are when you watch a show. You get a reenactment, the people play in their part, but you see the actual people, in whether it be the film, the newspaper, the pictures, whatever. So they do a really good job with that. And now we're seeing some news footage of a newscaster talking about a shootout in Brooklyn. So we know names, time periods, and location. And I'm like, yes, we don't always get that. I love it when we do. The newscast reporter is saying that Gregory Scarpa Sr. was shot in the face during a shootout. Okay. And now we see another video, and this kind of goes back and forth and gets a little confusing at times. Someone try to keep it as clearly stated as possible. So we have the news footage, and then we'll have this footage of Linda at her Sweet 16. And I'm telling you what, this was the fanciest Sweet 16 I've ever seen. She is literally dressed in what I have wrote down, white gown type of wedding dress. And it shows her father and other people are really dressed to the nines, like tuxedos and these formal outfit. And Linda tells us, watching the video of her Sweet 16, you can tell how much her dad loved her. And then we go back to the news, and it's telling us that Scarpa had been under house arrest and hadn't left his home in several months. So Linda's telling us, as she watches this newscast, this stuff that we're watching, right? She cannot fathom the stuff that her father did versus how he was with her as her father. But she says, and she contradicts herself a little bit, because she can't fathom he did any of this, but then she's like, yeah, once he got in his head that someone needed to die, there was no stopping him. Okay. So now, after our much loved intro, if you've not been with me, I absolutely love this intro to the show. If you've been with me, you're probably saying shut up and move on. But we're back to Linda, and she's looking at pictures. And this one picture she's showing us is her dad at a dining table. She's behind him, hugging him. And we see a lot of pictures of her and her dad, and she hugs him a lot. I mean, she's a daddy's girl. It's very evident very early on that she is a daddy's girl. And she says she just loved hugging him. He made her feel safe. He made her feel secure. And she says, in that sense, he was like any other father. But he was her rock. And she tells us that she used to refer to her father as Hulk. I guess as the Incredible Hulk. because he had this rage inside him. He would go from an ordinary man into this rage that would cause so much destruction in a blink of an eye. And she says, even now talking about it and saying these things out loud, she has trouble believing some of the horrible things that he did. And then she tells us that in the vicinity of the 13th Avenue, and again, I'm not familiar with Brooklyn, so we're on Brooklyn Avenue, 13th Avenue, I should say. And she said 13th Avenue felt like, quote, ours, end quote. She said that it was like her father ran the neighborhood, ran that part of the neighborhood. Linda says that her father was almost a celebrity, that wherever they went, whatever they did, they rolled out the red carpet for him. And she was saying, you know, they went to a restaurant. They would seat them even without a reservation, and they never had to pay for their food. Anything they wanted was given to them. She said that wherever they went, people would come up and shake his hand and just, you know, almost the celebrity treatment from what she's saying. And I don't know what to do with myself. So everyone greeted him, stopped him to shake his hands. They let him do whatever he wanted. He was, you know, the celebrity of the neighborhood. And she benefited. She said she didn't know why they were getting all those perks. She didn't understand at a young age. But she enjoyed getting whatever she wanted, even if she didn't have to ask for it. So now Linda is back out on this street. And this is where she grew up, she says. And she's standing in front of a place that she calls the Wimpy Boys Social Club. And she had no idea why it was called the Wimpy Boys Social Club, because none of the men that were part of this club were wimpy. It was exact words there. And then she shows us a photo of her dad standing outside this club. And she said she shows us this photo, and he's standing in front of this. It's not a normal door that you open. It's one of those rolled up gate type doors, the metal doors. But he's standing in front of it, and you know, it's an older photo, you can tell. He's standing there, he's smoking, and he's on the phone. And she said she loves this picture. And then she says, this was a surveillance picture because the police were watching him, but she loves it. It's one of her favorite pictures of him because it reminds her of the good memories of going to that club with her father. She said he had this presence about him, and that really stood out. So now she tells us the story that one night she was in bed, I guess. I don't know if she was asleep yet or not, but she heard her daddy come home, and she come running down the stairs to see him. And when she gets downstairs, he's in the dining room table, or in the dining room at the table, and it's covered end to end, she said, of jewelry. Just necklaces, rings, diamonds, rubies, just amazing stuff. And she, being a female and a kid, starts playing with it and trying it on and doing whatever. And she's asking him, she says, where'd you get this? And at first her dad just kind of played it off, oh, Santa came early. But she just what? You know, and she's questioning him, and she's like, no, where did you get it? Whatever. So he proceeds to tell her that he is a professional gambler. And these were his winnings. And she's like, I didn't know what a professional gambler was or why he would have these things, but it's what he told her. So she's like, okay. And apparently she picked out a ring she wanted. He gave it to her, said, anything for my baby girl. Paraphrasing that, but he gave her a ring that she wanted. So here's another story, and we find out Linda has a brother, Joey. And in this story, Joey, they're outside, and Joey comes back, and apparently there were some kids in the neighborhood that didn't like Joey so well, and he was bullied. And he was complaining to his sister how they had pushed him off a fence, so I really don't understand, but he was upset because he was being bullied, and Dad heard the story. And come on, do you not know they're Scarpas? You don't mess with Scarpas. And Dad was very much like, you don't let that happen. If they are treating you this way, You go and take care of it. And he gave Joey a bat, a baseball bat, and told him, you go back, and if you have to hit those kids with this bat, you hit them with this bat. You're a Scarpa. Nobody messes with you. Linda's like, I don't know what happened. He left. Joey left with the bat, and he wasn't bullied again. Okay. So now we find out that Linda tells us that if her father doesn't agree with someone, so Linda tells us that if her father doesn't agree with something, someone was going to get hurt. And she was constantly having to make new friends because of it. It's not funny. This story's not funny. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to be her friend either. So she says there was one time she went out with her friends, wanted to cut up, let loose, and smoke some pot. And she come home first after her curfew, which is a huge no-no, and second, she was high. And Dad was livid. And he started, where did you get the drugs? Who gave you the drugs? Yada, yada, yada. He was not happy. And she's like, I was not going to tell on my friend. Wasn't going to happen. But that doesn't matter. Dad found out anyways. She said the next morning or the next day, she's upstairs in her room and her dad calls her down and she comes running down and her friend and his father were downstairs and her friend had taken a beating. She said, I don't know how he survived. Said that it was horrible. His dad found out that he was the one that she was with and he's the one that had the drugs. And he was there with his father and his father's like, why'd you do that to my son? And they're like, you gave my daughter drugs. What did you think? And at a point, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. You know, as a parent, I think many of us would be like, yeah, if I found out someone gave my kids drugs, I'd want to beat the shit out of them too. But I wouldn't necessarily do it. Wanting to and then doing it are two different things. And this guy, Gregory, did it. And she's like, yeah, he never spoke to me again. Yeah. And then she's like, but I never did drugs again either. And I'm like, okay. So now we're back to her Sweet 16 party. And she describes it, and I chuckled because I said it earlier, she describes it almost like a wedding. People were there in these big elaborate dresses. She has this big white wedding dress type on. And she said, then she's like, yeah, they were in their tuxes, but then there was the others that were in their tracksuits. And I'm like, oh, such an 80s thing, right? So, not everybody was dressed to the nines, but the majority of them were. But she was upset because she had invited a bunch of friends, and there was like these 2 tables that were completely empty. And they showed pictures. I mean, we saw video of this whole thing, and I'm just going to say Linda was gorgeous. Such a pretty girl. Yeah, she still is as an adult, but I mean, looking back at this, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're beautiful. Anyways, I digress. But there's 2 empty tables, and they were friends that she invited that didn't come. And she goes through this whole, she's asking her dad, is it me? Am I ugly? Which I don't know why she would have thought that to begin with, but, you know, teenager angst, teenager, what is it? Insecurities. So she thought, you know, she's asking her dad all that, and her dad's like, no, darling, you're beautiful. It's not you at all. Don't you know who your father is? And I'm like, yeah, she knows who you are. And she claims throughout here that wasn't aware of everything her father does. And I don't believe that. But we'll let that go. But, yeah, she's like, don't you know who your father is? That's why nobody wants to hang out with you. But then she says, and I kind of get a weird vibe from this father-daughter relationship. And she's like, but that party was the best night of my life. She said, because I got to dance with my daddy. She said, it didn't matter who didn't come to her party because she was with her dad and she knew he loved her. She said she had trouble grasping that the man she knew as her father was the same man that put them in the line of danger. She did tell us another story, and I don't know what the hell this guy was thinking. So Linda and her brother Joey were picked up every day by a driver, taken to school and picked up, brought home. One day, Joey was sick, didn't go, so the driver comes out, and Linda said that he was like, hey, just sit in the front instead of the back because, you know, there's no need for you to sit back there. And she's like, okay, sure. She didn't think anything of it. But he didn't take her to school. She said, I got a really weird feeling when we ended up at the park. And she asked him, what are we doing here? What are you doing? I need to go to school. And he told her not to worry about it. That he needed to take care of something. And she said, this feeling just kept getting worse and worse. It did not feel right. There was something not right about this guy taking her to the park. Yeah. So he stops the car and there's nobody around and she's getting very nervous, you know. And then he decides to make a move on her and he starts touching her and kissing on her or whatever. And she's like, oh my God, I'm going to get raped. She's like, he is going to rape me. And then he's going to kill me because he won't have any other options to kill me. What's he going to do? Take me back to school? He knows I will tell. And so she's like, I had to think fast. I had to think of a way out of this. And she told him, hey, we don't have to do this. We can get together later. So she like plays into this where he's wanting to be with her. And she's like, pick me up from school. I'll tell my mom I'm at so-and-so's house and we'll have all night to party and have fun. And he fell for it. So he takes her to school. And she runs into school. She calls her mom immediately in a panic. Tells her, you have to come pick me up, come pick me up, come pick me up. And her mom does. And she tells her mom what happened, which of course her dad finds out. And her dad is pissed. They are scarpas. How dare this guy put his hand on his daughter. And she said that she knew something was going to happen to this guy. Her father left the house, and when he came back later, he told her, you don't ever have to worry about him again. Of course, she's like, what do you mean? What? Anyways, so the next morning, that guy was in the paper. He had been murdered. They had found his body. Dad had a bad habit of killing somebody and dumping them on the side of the road like trash. That's what he did. And she said she felt so guilty because she knew this guy ended up dead because of her, right? And she didn't call the cops when it happened because she had been raised to think cops were not good. They were bad, and you can't trust them. So she never called the cops, but her dad took care of business. She said she took that newspaper article, cut it out, kept it in her wallet for years. She said she carried that thing with her she basically carried it until she lost the wallet. And she said it literally tore her up knowing that he died because of her. So now we're looking at another picture, and it's her dad and like 3 other men. And she talks about one of the guys on there named Joe Brewster. And Joe and her dad were really good friends, and Joe was at the house all the time. She called him Uncle Joey, or Uncle Joe. Oh, I say that. I wonder if Joey's named after Joe. Never says. Anyways, so Joe was always at the house, and they had a really good relationship, and he was her uncle, basically. Just part of the family. He was always around. And then she talks about how Joe started drinking heavy. And then one day when he was at the house, he started saying he wanted out of the business, wanted out of this life. He didn't want to do anything illegal anymore. He wanted to live a Christian life, and he couldn't do that doing what he was doing. And Joe used to come around the house all the time until he didn't. And you know, and I know, and we know what she's going to say next. And I wish sometimes I'd be wrong, but I'm not. Because then she's like, he just quit showing up. He just quit coming around the house. And I asked Dad, I said, where's Joe? what's going on? I haven't seen him. And her dad's like, he died. But she's like, what do you mean he died? And she said he wouldn't tell her the details, but she questioned the fact that her dad probably killed Joe. But she didn't want to believe it because he was like family. He wouldn't do that to family. And then she says that she tried to block out all the things that she witnessed. I mean, you remember there's been beatings, there's been killings, there's now Uncle Joe. And I get that in many ways, but at the same time, I don't want to judge her. You do what you got to do. Though I'm kind of low-key judging her because I'm like, how do you live with that? But you know how it is. You see, hear, speak no evil. Sometimes that's how you survive. Okay. Now, Linda talks about another friend of her father's, Lynn DeVecchio. And Evil Lives Here had already posted that Linda realized that Lynn was different than Gregory's other friends. So Linda tells us her earliest memory of Lynn DeVecchio. And apparently he called the house one day. And she answered the phone. And it was for her father. And it was Mr. Delio. Or Delio. And she's like, hey, Dad, Mr. Delio's on the phone. He's on his way over, whatever. As we all do. I think any of us that have answered that phone off the wall for your, hey, Mom, it's for you, whatever. We've done that. Well, Dad got angry. And he was telling her, you cannot be shouting that name. You cannot say that name. It was a big thing. You don't say Mr. Delio's name in the house. And she questioned why, but he told her, you know, you can't say it out loud. And, yeah, it was a little confusing at first. We get there. So she said she remembered that whenever Lynn came to the house, it was a huge deal. So Gregory would lock up the doors, shut all the windows, shut the blinds, shut the curtains. I mean, it was like nobody in or nobody out. So she said that when Lynn come over, he would tell her to go upstairs to her room. And she's like, I went upstairs, but I'd always sit at the top of the stairs and listen. She did that every time he had friends over, which is another reason why I say she wasn't as clueless as she wants us to think. So she would sit at the top stairs and listen in. And she never says what anything was said between Lynn and Gregory, but she was like, it was top secret for sure. Okay. So now we're talking about Linda's brother again, Joey. And apparently, and I don't know how old he is, he's old enough to have a really tight group of friends that he hangs out with and goes out with, but so they went out and did something, him and his friends. I don't know how many they were, because Joey and his friend Patrick are the only two that are really mentioned in this story. But they got in trouble with the police. And Patrick was being questioned. And Gregory was losing his shit. Basically, he thought Patrick was going to rat. He was going to tell the cops everything. And, you know, there's only one way to get rid of a rat. You kill it. And, yeah, that's what Gregory wanted Joey to do to his friend Patrick. Because he was so sure that Patrick was going to rat. Once a rat, always a rat. And Gregory told him there was no choice. He had to kill him. And he wanted Joey to do it. If Joey wouldn't do it, Gregory would do it. Either way, Patrick needed to get out and die. And Linda says, once again, when Gregory had in his head someone needed to die, they died. And Linda says, and that is the one thing that me and my brother hated about him. And I'm just going to say, through this whole story, she's never spoke anything negative about her dad. I mean, she's truly a daddy's girl. So that is the one thing that she hated. Once, you know, he thought you had to die, then you had to die. But she then says that her father killed Patrick and made Joey watch. And then we see a newspaper article, and the headline reads, "Off the hook, a real killer and the writing's too small for me to read anything else, so I don't really understand the title of that article, but we see the article. And Linda tells us that Joey really suffered from this killing. Like, it took a huge toll on him that he had to watch his friend die. And again, Gregory shot him and dumped him on the street like trash. And we actually see a picture. It's blurred out, but it's the street with the body on the side of the road. Would have been Patrick. But she said her and Joey both struggled with the fact that Gregory would just dump people on the side of the road like they were just trash. So Linda says, and I quote, Linda says after Patrick was murdered, she became rebel without a cause. There's the quote. Afterwards. And was looking for any way out of her house. And she met a guy. They started dating about a year into, they dated about a year and they got married. She said, I wasn't that crazy about him, but she was 4 to 5 months pregnant when they got married. So he was her way out. Okay. She said they were really volatile towards each other and apparently argued all the time. She said they were not good together at all. And her father would often offer to, quote, get rid of him, end quote. She said he asked her permission to get rid of him. Like, he would not kill this guy without her permission. And I guess I have two thoughts here. One, because he was the father of her baby. And two, he never, like, laid a hand on her. It was just verbal arguments between them. I think if he had actually done something to her, Gregory wouldn't have cared about permission. He would have done what he thought was right. But because that didn't happen, it probably saved this guy's life. But she told him no. He couldn't kill her husband. And she eventually divorced the guy. And her son and her moved back home with her mom and dad. So now we're going to talk about November 18th, 1991. And this is when everything apparently went to hell. Or at least the start of everything going to hell. She said on this day, like normal, they got up in the morning, had breakfast, did whatever. And her dad left at the same time. She was in her car, he was in his car. And she started hearing some popping sounds. And she looks up and there are men surrounding her father's car. They're wearing black clothes, black ski masks, carrying guns, and they were shooting at her father. She said somehow her father got away. And so he drove away. And he left her. And she thought she was going to die. Because they turned around and she's in her car. And one of them came over to the car window and pulled the gun on her, and she really thought he was going to shoot her. Instead, he ran away. She's very fortunate. But Dad just up and left. I don't know what would have... I mean, seriously, he's being shot at. What else would I expect? But it just hit me really weird. Anyways, so we're back at the beginning where it's the crossroads, and it's the 82nd and 12th Street. Those are the streets that I didn't catch at the beginning. And she said this is the block they lived on. So she's back out on the road and she's showing us this. And this is where the shootout happened. And she said that she was beyond scared. So this is where she says that she cannot cannot clearly tell us how scared she was because there's not enough words. And she says, honestly, she thought she was going to die. And after that, she started having panic attacks. No kidding. And little things like popping noises, flashing lights, just the littlest things could cause flashbacks for her. And she says she went from living in no fear, living this red carpet life where she was basically royalty in her neighborhood, where she got anything, did anything. She was so secure, she was so safe, to constantly being in fear. She said she feared for her life, for her dad's life, for her brother, for her mother. I mean, she said her life just turned upside down in all the wrong ways for her. So she said after the shooting happened and the guy walked away, she ran inside to her mother and she was terrified because she didn't know if her dad was alive. He drove off, but was he injured? Was he shot? Was, what was what? And then he comes running in because he came back And he was terrified because he didn't know if she was alive, if she had been shot. She said he completely lost it, broke down, was crying, hugging her, doing the whole thing. And then here comes the Hulk because the rage happened. And she said the switch was like that. I mean, just very quick. And he vowed that they were all going to die. Every single person that was responsible for the shooting was now his target. And he was out for revenge. She said he spent every night looking for these people. And then he'd find someone and kill them. He'd come home. He was, quote, excited. And he would tell his family all about the person he found, how he killed them. And it was just night after night after night. And she's like, we didn't know how to react, how to do. I mean, because he was hell-bent and there was nothing we were going to say that was going to change that. So every night she'd sit there and listen to him talk about this. And in no surprise, the police eventually caught him. And she said that she was surprised because all he got was house arrest. And I don't know what they caught him for. I do, because it's later, it tells me. But in this story, it kind of makes you think that he was caught with the shootings and stuff, but he was only given house arrest, so apparently not. But she says he was arrested, and they were all shocked he only got house arrest. And I was too, because I'm like, all right, I do find out more about this. We'll get there. So then she says when he got house arrest, that's when she found out that Lynn DeVecchio was an FBI agent. I kind of had that thought that maybe when it told us that Lynn was a different type of friend and everything was quiet and secret, I'm like, one, was he undercover and they didn't know he was? Or two, was Greg an informant? Well, it turns out it's number two. Lynn DeVecchio was Gregory's handler, and Gregory was an FBI informant. So, she said that when it came out that he was an informant, everybody was like, oh, your dad works for the FBI. She was like, oh, no, the FBI works for my dad. And I'm like, there's a lot of confidence going on here. And Gregory thought he was invincible because of his status. So now Evil Lives Here tells us Linda's father thought he was untouchable until December 29th, 1992. So a new date, a new thing. And Linda tells us that her brother, he was out near the house a couple blocks away and was kind of stopped and accosted by some guys. They pulled a gun on him, right? And when he come home and told his father was enraged. He's a Scarpa. You do not mess with them, right? Well, he was going to go and show these guys, you don't mess with the Scarpas without having hell to pay for. So Dad didn't care about his ankle bracelet. Remember, he's on house arrest, right? He's got a bracelet on. But he decides he's walking out and he's taking his guns and he's going to show these guys a thing or two, right? And there was no stopping him. They tried, but he was infuriated. Somebody insulted his family. And Linda says she remembers hearing screaming and shootings. It's only a couple blocks from their house, so she's hearing something. But she didn't know what it was. But then her dad come home covered in blood. And he's holding his face, and he's stumbling in. He had his hand covered in his face. She's grabbing a towel to try to help him, and his eye was gone. He'd been shot in the eye. She said at that point, which I thought, should have been a little bit sooner, but the phone started ringing, and it was the police asking if he was at the house because his ankle monitor was going off. And I'm like, so he talks to them, and it's like nothing's wrong. Like he hasn't just left the house, gotten a shootout, and was missing an eye. But Linda says that someone had taken him to the hospital. It was serious. And he finally let her take him to the hospital. And we see kind of a news footage here of the block, and there's blood on the road. There's a towel or something sitting there. I don't know. It never says exactly who got shot other than Gregory, but did he shoot anybody else? Was there... It never tells us that, and I'm kind of curious. But at this point, the reporter is talking about an ongoing feud within the reported Colombo mob family. And that's the first time we're hearing the official mob, which I'm pretty sure you had an idea, I had an idea, in which family it was. So, Linda said when she took him to the hospital, she knew it was over. That, yeah, he wasn't getting out of this one. So, Linda said she found out from the news that he was a mobster. She had no idea. In all fairness, she knew what happened. She knew about the beatings and murders and stuff, but she didn't know he was a gangster. I don't know what she thought. I really don't. But she said she didn't have that word that described him, right? She said she was surprised to find out that he was a gangster. And then she says that Gregory was not the only hitman for the Colombo family, but he was the hitman for the family. And he was the one they called when things needed to be done. His nickname was the Grim Reaper or the Killing Machine within the family. So the news report is back, and the reporter's telling us that within the last 14 months, 10 people had been killed in the fight for control of the Colombo crime family. And Linda tells us she didn't know how many people her father killed. She had heard rumors that he stopped counting at 50. She doesn't know how much of that is true. And then she tells us that it's very confusing to love someone capable of murder because you love them. You want to love them unconditionally, and she did love him unconditionally. So she had that side of her father, but then there was this side, the murderer, and she couldn't put them together. They did not go together in her head. So then Evil Lives Here tells us that Greg Scarpa admitted to killing 3 rivals within the crime family. In December 1993, in failing health, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. And I'm going to say right here, I was just like, what the hell? 10 years? Well, that doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't. And I do get some more information. So hold that thought because, 10 years didn't make any sense to me. But then it says he died 6 months later and he was 66 years old. I do find out more about that too. He had been ill. And it's not ever mentioned in Linda's story. So I do talk about it a little bit. So Linda tells us that the day her father died, she was actually supposed to go see him. Like, I guess he died through the week. And she was supposed to go see him on the weekend. And she never made it before he passed. And I can relate to that. That's difficult. Very difficult. So now Evil Lives Here tells us that her brother followed their father's footsteps into the life of crime, and he was gunned down less than a year later at the age of 23. So we see Linda at some headstones. She's at the cemetery, the headstones. And her father, she tells us her father got to live his life, and if she had a choice to bring one back, it would be her brother because he didn't. And she's talking about the headstones and how they were supposed to be for her mother and father, not her father and her brother. And she says, and I find this funny because this is totally an Erin move, that when she's having a bad day, she sits and screams at her father, blaming him for everything under the sun until she feels better. I get that. She said her father is who he is and who he was, and there was no changing that. Basically, it is what it is. She also says she still feels the weight of the crimes her father committed. Even 23 years later, which this was in 2018, so obviously longer than 23 years, but she still has all the vivid memories that will never go away, and she doesn't think she'll ever heal from them. And I will say I'm pretty sure she's still in therapy over the shooting and everything. Good for her. So now let's go to Google and see what else I can find about Gregory Scarpa Sr. And I end up first at Wikipedia. So Gregory Scarpa Sr. was born in New York, New York on May 8, 1928. He passed away June 4th, 1994. Here it says his nickname was the Grim Reaper and the Mad Hatter. So I don't know where that one came from because she says the Killing Machine. He was an American hitman for the Colombo Don't know where I was getting all that. But the crime family, as well as an informant for the FBI during the 70s and the 80s. Scarpa was the chief enforcer and veteran hitman for the Colombo boss Carmine Prosecco. He was sentenced to life imprisonment for 3 murders in 1993 and died the following year. So here they're saying he was sentenced to life. Okay, he still died the following year, 6 months later, whatever. But he had life in prison, not 10 years. That makes more sense. Even if he was only sentenced for 3 of the murders of however many he did, 10 years doesn't make sense. So, now, Mr. Gregory married a woman named Connie and had 3 sons. This was not mentioned. And it says Gregory Jr. also followed in his father's footsteps. Now, I'm going to say when I saw his name was Gregory Sr. originally, and Linda started talking about her brother Joey, I thought maybe I got the name wrong, or Joey was a nickname, though I couldn't figure out how you get Gregory, Joey, but no, he had 3 other sons from another marriage, another family. And it says, he also had a 30-year relationship, not married, to a lady named Linda. And this was Linda and Joey's mom. So I don't know if Linda was still married, if Gregory was still married, but there was an extramarital affair. That's how it was titled. It looks like the first time he helped the FBI was in 1964. And he was brought in to help find and uncover 3 missing bodies in Mississippi. The FBI brought Scarpa in because he could interrogate and question in ways the FBI weren't allowed to. And I won't get into everything he did because they did say it and it was nasty. He basically beat a confession out of this man and they found the 3 bodies. Okay. So, I mean, at least the person he was trying to kill didn't know where the bodies were. Does that make it any better? Second time he helped the FBI was in a murder case, and this was in 1966, and he helped solve it. After he helped solve it, and it doesn't say how or what, but there was a large disagreement between him and the FBI on the reward Scarpa was getting for helping, and they ended their relationship. That was until 1980, and Linda Vecchio came back and became Gregory's handler and brought him back into the FBI as an informant. So Gregory gave information to the FBI about the Colombo family. So in 1985, this explains a little bit that we didn't understand before. In 1985, Gregory was convicted of credit card scam. But because of the FBI, he was only given fine and probation. So that's when he was put on house arrest. But that caused a lot of questions within the family. And they questioned if he was working with the government and if he was undercover and if he was telling secrets. And here's a little bit about his health. And I mention it because, for one, it's tragic. I don't care who you are. This is a tragic story. But it explains a little bit more about him and his mental state, but what he was going through. So he had surgery for an ulcer at a hospital in New York and contracted HIV through a blood donation. And it's crazy because the story even said who the blood was from and what he did. And I'm like, I didn't need to tell all that, but this was obviously before all the testing and when HIV and AIDS was becoming huge and you could get it like this. So it's absolutely horrible. But his HIV turned into AIDS and he sued the hospital for $300,000 when he became sick. And they found out that was why. And he never told anybody he had AIDS. He told everybody he had cancer. So now I'm at the NewYorker.com and there's an article titled The G-Man and the Hitman. It was dated December 8th, 1996, and I'm going to quote some of this story. So the first paragraph, and I quote, "In 1991, the Colombo crime family in Brooklyn went to war with itself. A rebel faction tried to seize control of the family from its boss, Carmine Prosecco, who was serving life in jail. Gregory Scarpa Sr., a 63-year-old mobster, immediately took command of the armed faction loyal to Prosecco. Scarpa was seriously ill. As a result of a blood transfusion, he was HIV positive. His body had shriveled from a muscular 200 225 pounds to a gaunt 150. His stomach had been removed during surgery, and he digested his food with pancreatic enzyme pills. Yet Scarpa, a multiple murderer, hadn't slowed down. During the 7 months that the shooting war lasted, he could be seen driving with his troops along Avenue U in Brooklyn, scouting out the social clubs and bars where members of the enemy faction were likely to be found. End quote. So I noticed throughout this story, when we were seeing pictures of Gregory with Linda growing up, he was a bigger dude, you know. But then at the end, when it's showing footage of him at trial or whatever, he was little. Like I said, when I'm watching the episode, I never knew he was sick. So now I do, and I know why. And it mentions here that he went from 225 to 150, and he was little. And it also said that when he'd be driving up and down looking for people, it would be nothing for him to stick his gun out the window of his car and start shooting when he found an enemy. So the article continues talking about the relationship between Gregory and Lynn, and I quote, "In 1980, DeVecchio had taken the initiative to seek out Scarpa, to win back his good graces and reopen him for the first time in 5 years." And I'm going to stop here because it didn't make any sense to me. Because that was in 1980, but it says the last time he worked for them was 1966. And if my math is right, that's 14 years. So there's something in between there that wasn't told. So back to the article, and I quote, "It had been a spectacular career move. Scarpa was no ordinary informant. He was classified as a TE for top echelon source. DeVecchio was promoted to squad supervisor in 1983, largely because of his work with Scarpa, and with a second unidentified mobster that he worked with. It was said DeVecchio became one of the Bureau's most admired experts on dealing with informants and was accorded the honor of being asked to teach informant development to recruits in the FBI Training Academy in Quantico, Virginia." End quote. So Lynn, he moved up. He did what he had to do to get what he needed to do or get done, and he became pretty big in the FBI. So now I'm on the cinemaholic.com, and as you know, I absolutely really like this page. And the first thing I see is that they're actually making a movie about Gregory Scarpa. Mark Wahlberg will be starring in it. It's a movie titled By Any Means, and it's based on Gregory Scarpa. And it was supposed to start filming in April 2025. I did look this up on IMDb, and it shows that it's in production. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know how I feel about making a movie on this dude, but I probably will watch it. Honestly, it sounds like something my husband would like. So yeah, I'll probably end up watching it. But in another article on the cinemaholic.com, that's titled Linda Scarpa, Where's Gregory Scarpa's Daughter, dated November 2022. And it tells us Linda Scarpa is the daughter of hitman Greg Scarpa and his long-term girlfriend, Linda Shiro. But she didn't know this until she was a teenager. She always thought her mother's erstwhile, whatever that means, erstwhile husband, Charlie Shiro, was her father. And Gregory was just a family friend that was always at the house. Linda ultimately learned her mother was Greg's mistress, and she and her brother Joey were actually his children. Despite everything, she still embraced her new identity and called herself a daddy's girl. There was a lot of secrets, yet Linda once conceded her, quote, father was a different type of gangster. He let us know what was going on. Street business if they needed to hit somebody. It made me fear telling him things, but I was so much of a daddy's girl, and he was extremely loving and caring towards us. He was my best friend, end quote. She knew. I don't care what you say. She knew what daddy was doing. Yeah. So this part's a little different than what Linda told us. It said mob life ultimately caught up with the Scarpa family. Linda's brother Joey, then 17, was forced by Greg to murder his best friend Patrick. Now, Linda told us Joey didn't murder Patrick. This tells us that Joey did murder Patrick. But he, I don't know. Don't know which one's truth. But the murder of Patrick broke Joey, and he spiraled into depression before getting killed by a rival gang. Lord have mercy, I can't talk. Linda and her son were also caught in the mob shootout on November 18th, 91, as the member of other gangs sprayed their cars with bullets. For one, she doesn't say she gets sprayed with bullets, but I know Gregory did. For two, she didn't mention she had her son with her. So no wonder she's having panic attacks if her son was in fact with her. Okay, so it tells us Greg died in the Federal Medical Center in Rochester, Minnesota on June 4th, 1994 from AIDS-related complications. After Greg's death, and I find this just like mind-blowing, his millions mysteriously vanished and were never recovered, even by the feds. Who took Daddy's money? Where'd he go? Linda is a mother of two, now adult children, currently resides in a modest apartment in Staten Island. I don't know if they told us that because she didn't take the money, or I don't know. Linda has since co-written a book on her childhood experiences and her relationship with her father. It's appropriately titled The Mafia Hitman's Daughter. And she says, and I quote, "The book has been very hard for me. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to glorify this life. This life destroyed my family." End quote. Okay, so there's that. What do you think? I know this is a little different. I'm used to doing something, and I'm kind of was all over the place, back and forth, didn't know how to act without doing my makeup. But there you go. That's the story of Gregory Scarpa Sr. and Linda. Tell me what you think. Will you watch the movie when it comes out? I said I probably will. So, all right. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, goodbye.